So, first night in my Aldi Adventuridge two-person tent.
First impressions of the tent, it's just not long enough. It's just not long enough. I'm 5'11", my feet are pushed up against the mesh at the bottom. My head is touching the mesh at the top. So it's only long enough in terms of where the ground sheet is. For practical sleeping purposes, when you've got a sleep mat and a sleeping bag, no, you're too high, you're touching the tent all the time. So first impressions, unless you are a few inches shorter than me, it's not going to be that comfortable to sleep, I wouldn't have thought. Obviously I'll find out because I'm going to sleep in it right now. But yeah, first impressions, the rest of the tent seems fine. There's plenty of space here in terms of where my sort of sleeping bag, my sleep mat, and I've got all my backpack and other bits of gear in there and stuff. So in that sense, there's plenty of room in here for one. It is definitely not a two-person tent. Absolutely no way is it a two-person tent unless you left all your gear outside and we're happy just to snuggle up all night. So yeah, for the right two people, absolutely it's a two-person tent, but it should be marketed as such.
It's about 5:45, and as you can hear and probably see, it's really, really windy. The tent has been getting absolutely battered most of the night. But it seems to have done okay, but the outer is hitting the inner in a few places, particularly on my head. And it's loud. It's really flappy. Well, it's 7:10. Finally, actual sun. It was really, really misty and foggy this morning. Wind has just been blowing constantly all night. Really loads of wind. So the tent's had a really good test, actually. It's done fine apart from being really flappy and quite noisy. This door is no good, it keeps flapping around. The door's not held back properly. My thoughts are confirmed about it not being a two-person tent, definitely isn't. My concerns about it being long enough are also confirmed, I think. It's just a fraction too short given the steepness of the top and the bottom. My head was against the mesh at the top, or my feet were crammed into the mesh at the bottom, so not ideal at all. These things obviously don't hold up in the wind at all, they just flap around. There's quite a lot of flap and stretch on the front of the tent as well. I appreciate that I'm pitched into the wind here, so that's not ideal. But it certainly gave the tent a good test. So yeah, confident the tent can take a bit of wind because it's about 30 miles an hour plus last night. So confident with that, but just a couple of small issues with it. So the inner tent door, which you can obviously unzip and roll up. The clip that holds that together is really, really long. So you put the clip through to hold it, then it just unravels and loosens because there's so much slack there. So just a really silly design flaw that makes the inner door sort of constantly drag and stuff and be in the way. That's a bit of a pain. Yeah, it's quite flappy, quite rustly. But having said that, I did sleep really well, so it wasn't like a massive issue. So I think my initial thoughts on the tent are that, yeah, it's pretty good, but I think it's just got a couple of weak spots from pitching it and from being in it last night. So one of them is where you hook, where you tie the outer to the frame. The wind was catching last night, and you've got to kind of fold back the material to do the tying up, and you can see the tying up points have put a lot of strain on the seams there. So I think the 4 points where you tie them down, I think that's going to be a weak point, and I think that's where you're going to get the first leaks on this tent over time. I think that's definitely going to wear worse than the rest of the tent. In terms of width, plenty of width at the top. I managed to get my backpack in comfortably, all my camera gear and stuff, and little bits and pieces around here as well. So no problems in terms of space in a one-man tent apart from the length. As I say, I'm 5'11", I find it a fraction too short for me, but if you're under that, I think you'd be absolutely fine. And there's enough room in the vestibule for my shoes and stuff. So no, pretty good in honesty. But my only concern with it is that there's a lot of tents of this design for maybe 30 quid more that I would probably rather be in. So I think if I was going to be in a tent like this, a kind of low slung, low profile one, I'd want to be in my Jack Wolfskin tent. That was 80 quid used, including postage, and that was mint condition, as if it was brand new. And to me, that feels a lot stronger, much better quality throughout. So I think if I was going to go low slung and compact and stealthy, I'd want to be in something that felt absolutely bulletproof, whereas this doesn't feel like that. It feels solid enough, but doesn't feel strong enough for me to have the compromises of the low height and the kind of tight space and stuff. And the good thing with the Jack Wolfskin, it's much longer. So you could actually put your bag along the bottom if you wanted to, but you feel like you've got plenty of space. It's amazing how tight a tent can feel when your feet are touching the bottom all the time or your head's touching the top. It just gives you that illusion that it's not as spacious as it could be, despite there being loads of width. So that's my initial thoughts on the first camp in the Aldi tent. Obviously, this is part of the Aldi versus Lidl series of the two-person tents. I'll take the Lidl one out next. So if you want to look forward to that, then subscribe to the channel, check out the previous video where I do a compare and contrast of the two tents, and hit a like on this video, and I will catch you in the next one, which will probably be on a sleeping bag. Or something else, but I will get out in the little tent as soon as I possibly can. Summertime now, so hopefully I'll have plenty of time off work to be out and about doing stuff. So I will stop whittling on, and I will catch you in the next one.